Alright, so another BattleBit update just dropped today, and I wanted to cover the patch notes real quick. Some pretty good quality of life updates in this update, and a lot of weapon adjustments, as well as many other things. So without further ado, let's get stuck right into the patch notes. If you want to go and read them for yourselves, there'll be a link in the description down below. So first, the gameplay aspects that were changed. Support players will now be able to resupply players by equipping the ammo box and holding right mouse button, which is a pretty welcome change. Sometimes you don't really want to dump your ammo box somewhere, or sometimes some teammates just don't think about picking up ammo, but now you can just force feed them ammo. Just fucking like in The Simpsons, that scene where he gets force-fed donuts. Well, that's pretty much what we can do with ammo in here. Assault will now have 6 bandages instead of 4. Support, the same thing. Engineer as well. Recon will now have 5 bandages instead of 3. Engineers will now be able to repair 98% of the damages instead of 50 to 75%. Players will no longer be able to build HESCO walls on the places where you would spawn by spawning on a flag. You can still place stuff inside flag, just not at places where people would spawn. Entering/deploying on tanks will now take 2 seconds instead of 4 seconds. Added input buffer for single fire weapons, no more dead clicks. There will be icon on barbed wires to indicate if it is friendly or not, which is great. Dark flashbang option added to gameplay settings, so instead of being absolutely blinded, your screen will just go dark, which is a very welcome change. Sometimes it can be hard on the eyes. Anti-vehicle grenades will detonate on impact with vehicles now. The damage radius to walls and buildings by anti-vehicle grenades and mines was reduced to 2 meters. Grenades will no longer pass through vehicle windows and riot shields. End of round, so they added a bunch of new stuff for the end of round screen, like most revives, most heals, most objective captures, highest score, highest kills, longest sniper kills. I think there's also best transport players and best squad leaders, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, just a bunch of things to highlight the top players in the match. There's also random game mode and random map options that have been added, as opposed to voting for a specific game mode and map, so that is a welcome change as well if you want to mix it up a little bit. Moving on to vehicles, transport vehicle physics slightly improved. More work will be done in this area. Pilots will no longer be able to pilot helicopters upside down like a spaceship. They will now properly descend when tilted that way. Moving on to fixes. Issues with squad mates being considered in combat when they aren't should be fixed. I played a little bit and it doesn't seem, or I didn't really notice much of a difference, but I'll have to play a little bit more to actually test this. Laggy player movement for other players fixed needs to be tested. Hit detection for mines, claymores, C4, and drones fixed. Players wouldn't be able to use C4 mines if they would place them while switching guns quickly and firing has been fixed. The MK14's previous velocity change was properly applied. The Ultimax night vision ADS has been fixed. A bug where water would render on top of smokes has been fixed. A bug where miniguns would continue to fire if the player who used it disconnects has been fixed. They also fixed a bug where sniper sway wouldn't be applied while sitting in vehicles. A rare bug where player animations wouldn't play and player would just float around without any animations has been fixed. There was also a rare bug, player spawning with no attachments. When there's no room to exit a vehicle, the player will attempt to exit from above. Vehicle exit causing teleport to the roof of buildings should be fixed. That needs to be tested. Moving on to UX and UI, server browser region filters added, which is great. Light/heavy gadgets will now be displayed on the game UI. So you have a little, in your heads-up display, there's going to be a little icon showing you your heavy and light gadgets. So I was playing Medic earlier and it would show me like how many bandages I have and how many packs of C4 I would be able to carry or had left in my inventory, which is great. You don't actually have to swap to that gadget anymore to see how many you have left. Favorite servers will no longer disappear when server changes their name. The camo and helmets that are unlocked at rank 200 have been moved to Prestige 1, so players can continue using them after choosing to Prestige. Unable to choose players on map by clicking their name if they are in a vehicle has been fixed. Unlocking empty gadget has been fixed. Visuals, so there was some minor optimization and improvement of environmental models. They say this is the first iteration and more models will be updated over time and in the future, and most models received contoured outlines that will improve the sense of space surrounding the player and make more easy to read object shape in mono-shaded ambient light, which is very welcome. If you are used to playing BattleBit, sometimes, well, you might not notice, but when you start playing BattleBit, everything kind of just blends together. Like if you're walking in a tunnel, you just have the feeling that you're like walking and you're not actually moving because the tunnel has no textures really. It's just like a color. So they added textures to like stairs and stuff like that, as you can see in the screenshot here. A very welcome change. It just makes the game a little bit look a little bit better in my opinion, and also helps you to distinguish like different objects as they mentioned. Moving on to weapon adjustments. So I'm going to try and go through these as quickly as possible. There is a laundry list of changes to many weapons. Most of them are actually sidearms, but let's get into it. The M9 damage increased from 30 to 32, vertical recoil increased from 0.4 to 0.8, horizontal recoil increased from 0.4 to 0.6, fire rate increased from 400 to 600, velocity increased from 250 to 300, sound spread lowered from 600 to 450, draw speed increased from 1 to 2, and magazine size increased from 12 to 13. The MP443 damage increased 25 to 27, horizontal recoil increased from 0.1 to 0.3, velocity increased from 300 to 350, fire rate increased from 700 to 750, sound spread lowered from 600 to 450, draw speed increased from 1 to 2, magazine size increased from 16 to 17. The USP damage increased from 25 to 30, vertical recoil and horizontal recoil increased from 0.4 to 0.7 and 0.4 to 0.5 respectively. Velocity increased from 250 to 320. Fire rate 500 to 650, sound spread lowered from 600 to 450, draw speed increased from 1 to 2, and mag size has been increased to 15 from 12. For the Glock 18, the damage was increased from 17 to 19, sound spread lowered in a similar fashion to the previous one, 600 to 450, draw speed increased from 1 to 1.75, and the magazine size was increased from 16 to 19. The Unica, light damage increased from 0 to 10, vertical recoil lowered from 6 to 5, horizontal recoil lowered from 4 to 3.5, first shot kick lowered from 1.5 to 1.1, reload speed increased from 1 to 1.2, so 5 seconds down to 4.17 seconds, draw speed increased from 1 to 1.5, headshot multiplier is now 1.5x, default was 1.2x for pistols. The RSH-12, damage increased from 60 to 70, light damage increased from 5 to 30, vertical recoil lowered from 9 to 5, horizontal recoil increased from 4 to 5, first shot kick lowered from 1.5 to 1.1, velocity increased from 350 to 550, accuracy increased from 73.75 to 78.75. The reload speed has increased from 4.93 seconds to 4.11 seconds. Draw speed increased from 1.2 to 1.3. Running speed increased from 1 to 1.06. And also the increased headshot multiplier was applied to this weapon, making it 1.5 up from 1.2. Desert Eagle saw a little bit of a nerf. So the damage has been lowered from 90 to 72. Light damage lowered from 40 to 30. Horizontal recoil increased from 3.5 to 4. First shot kick increased from 1 to 1.1. Velocity lowered from 600 to 500. Running speed increased from 1 to 1.06. Magazine size increased from 6 to 7. Accuracy lowered from 85 to 78.75. Draw speed increased from 1 to 1.3. And same thing for the headshot multiplier, 1.5. So across the board for handguns, the draw speed has been increased, which is a welcome change. It felt so slow to pull out your handgun in the past, and it just really didn't seem worth it. You would just die if you ran out of ammo in your main weapon. There really wasn't a point in pulling out your handgun. MP7, damage fall off start reduced from 50 to 40, and the damage fall off and reduced from 200 to 140, making it a little bit less usable at range from what I understand. The UMP45 damage increased from 28 to 35, vertical recoil increased from 1 to 1.3, horizontal recoil increased from 0.65 to 0.9, fire rate reduced from 700 to 650, damage fall off start reduced from 50 to 20, and fall off end reduced from 200 to 140. So I think they're trying to make SMGs less viable in long to medium range combat as they were in the past, from what I can read from these patch notes. PP2000, horizontal recoil increased from 0.5 to 0.7, and the same changes for damage fall off, start, and end. So down from 50 to 20, down from 200 to 140. PP19, damage fall off start reduced from 50 to 40, and fall off end from 200 to 150. Chris Vector, damage fall off end reduced from 200 to 150. MP5, same thing as the PP2000, so from 50 to 20 and 200 to 140. The Honey Badger, damage fall off and reduced from 200 to 150. P90, same thing as the MP5, so start reduced from 50 to 20 and end reduced from 200 to 140. Scorpion, damage fall off and reduced from 200 to 140. LED6A1, damage reduced from 32 to 31, vertical recoil reduced from 1.4 to 1.2, horizontal recoil reduced from 1.4 to 1, velocity increased from 600 to 650, reload speed increased from 1 to 1.05, and the M249 ADS time reduced from 0.35 to 0.3, and running speed increased from 0.9 to 0.925. So that'll do it for the patch notes. Again, lots of weapon changes, mostly pistols and SMGs here, trying to bring them in line with their weapon class instead of just being like the all-around best weapons to use. But yeah, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know what you think about these changes in the comment section down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thanks very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.